On February 6th this year, 2013, it's now July, something happened to me. And I've been trying to figure out ever since what that was. I was in India, and something happened in my meditation. I hadn't taken any mind altering substances. It's completely clean. And for 10 days, I lived without food and sleep. I only drank water. I didn't choose that. I just didn't need to eat. I had no trouble. And I walked around and could turn on an orgasmic feeling inside of my whole body. Just like snapping my fingers. And it was amazing. I felt great. But sometimes it was also scary because I had absolutely no thoughts of future or past. I was completely in the present moment. And the Westerners, like I was in India, and the Westerners I talked to, they said I was completely crazy, that I needed to go back to the West and be signed into a mental hospital because I was going through a mental breakdown. The Indians, on the other hand, when I talked to them, they said this happens sometimes to some people. And then they said, if this is your reality for the rest of your life, if this what you're trying to explain to us is how you perceive the world for the rest of your life, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna go crazy, or are you just gonna adapt and just be who you are? Just be. On the first day this happened, I bought this book, and I have a bunch of scraps in it, images and stuff that I did, and I wrote down in detail every evening. I wrote down everything that was happening, and it's like bipolar disease, I heard some people explain to me, but then I did some research, and it feels more like a spiritual awakening, or some people call it also spiritual emergency. But I said to a man in a store there when I bought this book, I said, I'm a poet. I'm gonna go home and write some poetry, and then I'm gonna come back and read it to you tomorrow. And this I did. This just came out of me. I have several poems in here, but this is the first one. Do not meet confusion with anger when it is truly peace that hides behind confusion. Do not say it is over when it just has begun. Do not reside in despair when actually joy should be present. How can you feel betrayed when there is nothing to be betrayed about? How can you feel lost in darkness when you have a light guiding you? Why do you see a lie when someone is honest? Since when did you start see a small drawing when there's a big oil painting before you? Why do you see the devil when you know we're going towards God? Stop thinking you suffer when it is pain you feel. Suffering is not a synonym for pain. Pain is not suffering. Suffering is the gateway to spiritual growth. Spiritual growth is the gateway to more suffering. Through the lens of compassion, suffering is the connection to all of God's creation. Suffering is good, but hides behind the illusion of evil. Pain is part of evil and is being the label for so many lies. Have faith in what you know is true and know that this comes down to the very few. Truth should be a gateway to happiness, but instead it feels like pain. I have been guided by a light to reside in silence in this new beginning of confusion. God is the one you meet in silence. If you see me now as I walk among the children of God, do not become scared and reside in the despair, as I am in the beginning stage of being an observer of truth. I am but confused. I can feel the suffering. I am happy when there's nothing to be happy about. Why are we being guided by someone that says confusion is good? When you rest in the fact of your confusion, you feel at peace. You feel at peace because you have realized how little you know. Fractal wrongness is the answer to your questions. Confusion is the gateway to peace. Being at peace is to know that you will never be right. How can you be sad when there is no wrong or right? When there is no good or bad? There is only two directions to go: up or down, left or right. You can go in all directions, but at some point you have to go back. If there is only two directions to the things, that means if you measure where you started and where you finish, there's a middle. Your directions can go as far out as into infinity. But at some point you have to come back. Just as you inhale after you exhale, you have to go back. Make the active choice of finding your middle point. God is in the middle of infinity. If you know when to stop, And if you know where you started, you can at least see the middle as you pass it. The more you try to aim for stillness, the easier it is to feel when you're in the middle. When you feel the middle and you decide to go in another direction, know how it feels when you turn around. And when you know how it feels when you turn around, you know you're going back to the middle.